503-864-6326 is the fan text line. I'm going to read some of your thoughts here, talking some Blazer basketball here. I also saw some clear coaching decisions from Splitter that I really liked. Inbound plays and out of timeouts. I really like what the Blazers did. So I lost the rest of this. Solid. I think that's it. Solid. I think that's cool. I think the Blazers are in a very unique situation coming out of this, in the sense of, like, we get to watch, and we've talked about this off air and on air all the time. The coolest thing about Tiago is whether he turns out to be a great coach or not, whether he turns out to be the Blazer coach or not is beside the point. How many times have you ever seen somebody interview for a job with 81 games to go? You know, like what's his name in Denver? Mm-hmm. He got 20 games and a decent playoff run, and they gave him the job.
I think they got 4 games.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Playoffs.
Yeah, so like maybe 20 total. No, not 20 total, but like 10, 15 total maybe, and he got the job. That's what we're used to. But to see somebody
Doc coming in and taking over for
Correct.
Griffin, he got fired, was it right before or right after Christmas?
But Doc isn't a guy that's auditioning.
No, they brought in somebody that, they could quote unquote trust.
So I think that's really fun. And to this other texter's point, who asks the question, what are the likelihood that Tiago keeps the job? Does playing give him a good chance to stay on? They extended Chauncey with those expectations. And that's, honestly, I expect the Tiago experiment to go well this year. I'm not saying like I think he's the greatest or the future Phil Jackson or anything like that, but what I've seen so far, I expect this to go well. I don't think any of us know that answer, because we just don't know Tom Dundon. The future of Joe, the future of everything is so up in the air, for better or for worse, that I don't know how to. You ask me 10 toes on that, I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah, if I were a betting man, let's say Tiago helps make this team make the play-in, but let's say they're 8th and they're in the upper seeds of the play-in. Mm-hmm.
Does that really move the needle for you, being the 8th seed instead of the 9th seed?
I mean, I think it does at least a little bit, even though you're still in the play-in. Because if you're the 8th seed, you're probably relatively close to 6.
Yeah, probably.
You know what I mean? We're probably within like 5 games. Mm-hmm. Probably, I would imagine.
Yeah. And if 5 games out of the 6th seed, that's not bad, man.
No, and with the expectations and as bad as this whole Billups thing is and how it's lingering, it's how it's going to hang over the franchise for literal years. Like, it's a federal case. For those that aren't aware, like, this is not going away anytime soon, unless Chauncey Billups decides to cop a plea deal, which Mike Richmond had a former member of the Department of Justice, special advisor, Danny Shulkin, I think was her name, on Locked On. Shout out Mike for that. It was a great guest. But she's worked on these cases before, and she like. She's gone over the indictment. She's like, the preponderance of evidence here is like he's going to need to plea out of this. Otherwise, he's looking at like legitimate, real prison time.
Oh yeah,
that's the crappy part of it all. But it's going to linger over the franchise. So you have to almost look at Tiago's case a little bit differently, because he's not just coaching a basketball team. He's also having to manage a crisis and how these guys mentally and emotionally are going to react throughout the season.
That's the Phil Jackson aspect I was kind of teasing.
Yeah, there's a portion of that's really there. So this isn't just like coming in and focusing on basketball. You know what I mean? Like there's more to it than this. It's you're part psychiatrist and you're part therapist and you're part mentor and you're part leaning on each other kind of. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot more stuff like that happens during a regular season anyways, but it's just amped up to the umpteenth degree. I think if you're Dundon, if Tiago goes out there and not only does the expectations, I think the expectations coming into the year, I think if he meets those, he's far ahead because of the other stuff. But if he exceeds those expectations with all of this other stuff, I think that lifts him up a ton. At least it would to me in my eyes. If I'm looking at this from the outside, I'm looking at that going, not only did he continue to meet expectations with this immense pressure and all this focus and intensity that was sitting on in the entire organization, he exceeded where you weren't even expected to meet those expectations anymore because of how crazy this all is. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It would be a weird situation, too, if, say, that plays out that way.
And then you fire him?
But Dundon does what I think he's going to do, and that's clean house, whether it's fair to Joe or not. And I've talked about Joe frequently since we've been doing this show, that I love. I don't know if I love what Joe's done, but I've been very, very happy with what Joe's done.
Through the first 5 games, are you happy with Joe?
I mean, I'm very happy with Drew Holiday. I'll tell you that. Very, very happy with Drew Holiday. And so it would be interesting to fire the GM because you want to bring in your own guys. but end up keeping Tiago Splitter. Like, when has that ever happened? That someone comes in to clean house, but they say, you know what, this interim coach who wasn't really a part of the disaster that's been here, quote unquote, if you feel it that way, I'll keep that guy, but everybody else, you got to go. It'd be unprecedented.
It'd be, again, but so is this case.
Without a doubt. It's something I've never, ever seen before. Real quick, and then we'll get out. I love Wesley's attitude. He wants to lock you up and take you out of the game. He plays angry. I've been pretty impressed with the small things Splitter is doing and paying attention to. But there is another kind of, thought on the game last night that I do share sentiment with. Walking the ball up the court, running half-court offense, throwing the clock out with 3 minutes left in the game isn't how they were dominating and built such a big lead. It's like playing to prevent a loss. I agree. This team is a pace team, as we've talked about
there
many.
is something to that, but also
you're also running out of gas, bro. What's the score?
It's not just that.
136, 134.
Not just that. If you
70 points in the first half.
79. But if you limit the number of possessions, you limit the number of opportunities.
For sure.
I get. That's
math.
I'm a big fan of the saying in football: prevent defense prevents you from winning.
Mm-hmm. Prevents championships.
It's something that I do believe in, but the math in basketball is so much math because of the way that possessions work. It's yes, there's a clock, but there's also a finite clock with the shot clock, and how that works. You can calculate it. Like, you can limit how many possessions they get. Now, when you do it, how you do it, that's certainly a question. But when you're up, what were they up 14? I think at that point in time, the math played out for them.
Yeah, if sometimes. If you're in Madrid playing Real Madrid in the semifinals of the Champions League and you're up 1-0, it's not sexy, but it's time to park the bus.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to park the bus. I agree, though. Half-court offense for this team is not fun.
No,
it's not fun to watch.
But you also have to be
They just don't have the shooters that we've been talking about to do that.
And you do have to find a way to get more comfortable in it. And how do you get more comfortable in it? Well, when come crunch time, you find a way to execute.
All right, let's jump into Major League Baseball as the Toronto Blue Jays are sending this back to Toronto. 1 win away from one of the bigger upsets in World Series history that I can imagine. Will they pull it off? We'll go there next. 105.1 The Fan.